So ladies, if you want to go ahead and put that up, it will be the basis for my quick little talk. Excellent, wonderful. So um, let's start by talking about what is a healthy leader, right? And there's so many different ways that we can define it through the anchors that I'm sharing with you today. That's just one way that we can look at it. In working with so many leaders over the years, and especially now during this pandemic, I can say that I firmly believe that being a healthy leader starts by being whole, okay? Understanding that there's so many different components to our well-being and trying to pay attention to all of them, bring those into our awareness and try to balance them. Now, I recognize that there's a lot of people out there that say it's impossible, Monique, to be balanced. And I agree. I don't believe in perfection. And I certainly don't believe that we can be fully balanced all the time. But I do believe that the action of trying to bring ourselves into balance and into harmony through consciousness, through awareness, really allows us to feel healthy, to understand what brings us energy and what decreases our energy and the impact that we feel that we're making as leaders. So I thought I'd start by asking some questions, right? And as I'm asking these questions, I just want you to reflect on yourself. By answering these, it gives us an opportunity to just understand where we're at, right? With our well-being, with our health. So let's start with, is my mind clear and steady? Can I tap into joy during the day? Are my emotions somewhat balanced? How do I feel in my body? Do I feel weak? Am I in pain? Or do I feel strong? What's the pulse of my key relationships? What takes me out of fear and into trust? Am I experiencing fear, worry, and frustration? Do I have energy? How am I building energy? And what energizes me? Do I feel on purpose? And can I let things go that are getting in my way? Okay, so those are just some questions that can help you to tune in to the state of your well-being right now, okay? But now I just want to call attention to the picture that I have here on the screen, which is a boat guiding other boats. And the bigger question today that I want you to ponder is, do I feel that life is leading me, or am I leading my life and all of these little boats behind me, right? Because as leaders, yes, it starts with us leading ourselves, but we also have to recognize, you know, in the boat behind me is my spouse, the other boat is my children, my extended family, my staff, and all the members of my corporation, community organizations that I give my time to, right? It takes a lot of energy to lead all of those boats, in addition to just leading ourselves, right? So being aware of that is really important, and asking ourselves, do I want to lead in rocky waters, or do I want to lead in smooth waters? I've had the opportunity to coach a lot of people and have a lot of conversations with leaders recently, especially during this pandemic. And what I'm noticing is that a lot of leaders are still feeling like they have no control, right? And it's true. A certain aspect of this, a major aspect of this pandemic, is that we can't control it, right? It was given to us. And I believe with the greater idea of giving us an opportunity to pause, giving us an opportunity to work on ourselves and think about how we want to live our lives, how we want to lead our lives, and how we want to lead others. And if you walk away with nothing today, I hope that you walk away with the understanding that we do have a lot of control in our lives. And this is where the first anchor that I'm giving you comes into play: pause and perspective, okay? So the more that we are able to create space in between stimulus and our reaction to the stimulus, helps us to control our emotional reaction to things, right? and really understand where that emotion is coming from. So when we're able to pause, we're able to step outside of our immediate world, the things that are immediately happening to us, and be the observer, okay? And by doing that, we can, understand and ask ourselves, who am I being right now? What am I choosing to believe about what's happening to me and to others right now? What are the emotions and the thoughts that are derailing me and minimizing the amount of energy that I have to give, okay? We all have beliefs that we have grown up with and that we choose to use day in and day out. One of the beliefs that I am choosing to use right now is all is well. There's a lot going on outside of me, a lot that I don't have control over, but everything right now is okay. I have a home, I have food in the fridge, my family is okay, I feel healthy in my body, I can even sleep a few extra hours right now. So all is well. What are you saying to yourself about this situation? Okay. The other thing that we're feeling a lot right now is stress. Okay. A lot of stress and anxiety. Now, stress is wanting the current moment to be what it's not. Okay. So let me say that again. Stress is wanting the current moment to be what it's not, right? And when we have that resistance to what's happening in the moment, we're not able to see clearly. We're not able to fully, get in tune with what's really important right now and how we can take proactive action. So we want to ask ourselves, what do we need to accept right now in this moment so that I can, part those clouds, see things clearly, and understand the next steps that I need to take to feel healthy, to feel empowered, and to do the same for others. Okay, so that's pause and perspective. Now let's talk about the bigger picture, okay? This is something that is not affecting just us, right? It's affecting everyone in the world right now. And to a certain extent, we can all feel like we can support each other because that is the bigger picture, okay? And in leadership, we really need to look at the bigger picture all the time and not just make it about what we're experiencing. What we know from research is that what our people need from us is to feel like they can trust us. They need to feel hopeful from us, right? Hope, compassion, and stability, right? So are you providing that right now to your team, to your family members? And are you providing that to yourself, okay? So it's very important to think about that daily as we create this new normal for ourselves, wanting to feel healthy and accomplished in our leadership. One thing you can do every day is ask yourself, what or who can I affect today, right? It just helps us to get out of our own stuff and our own stuckness as leaders. Something that that we want to recognize is that right now, leaders love to win, right? We want to feel like we're winners, like we're accomplishing, and our lives have changed. And so we need to figure out a new way of winning. But by understanding that one of the ways that we can win and one of the ways that we can actually spike our well-being is by serving others, that is what you can do with this bigger picture, right? Wake up every day and say, who can I impact today? And by doing that, you are going to feel better. You're going to feel stronger about your leadership. Okay. So now let's move on to creative competencies and reactive tendencies. So according to research based on the top performing companies, the top 10% of performing companies in the United States, our measured effectiveness of leadership, okay? Our measured leadership effectiveness goes up by nearly 40% when we are able to operate in this space that we call creative leadership versus reactivity, okay? And this is a great quote that can help us to think about this. If you choose to be aware of the inherent creativity that resonates deep within you, you'll assist the birthing of new ideas, new accomplishments, new projects, new ways of understanding your life, and new ways of being and leading, right? And I don't know about you, but we've been in this pandemic now for about 7 weeks, perhaps. And I have really paid attention to how people are showing up, how individuals are, taking the lead, how companies are taking the lead to be creative and innovative, and not just say we're going to sit with this change, but no, we're going to reinvent ourselves, right? We're going to take advantage of this opportunity to change the way we've been doing things and make a difference in this world. And that is working with creative leadership. And when we sit in this space of creative leadership, what we're actually doing is igniting our energy, which gives us that health and well-being, right? And we're able to do more with our energy, serve more, and just feel good about who we are and what we're doing every single day, no matter what's happening around us. Reactive energy is when we are doing things by default, unconsciously, and just letting our instincts guide us without really pausing and thinking about what's best for me and what's best for everyone else. Bottom line, choosing to live and lead creatively is very hard. It's not easy, right? We have to work at it moment to moment. But will it ignite your energy and help you to sit in that space of being a healthy leader? Absolutely. Okay. So we want to think about how we can really use our creativity to not only make a difference during times like this, but also ignite our own health and well-being. So questions you can ask yourself is, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel today? And how do I want to make others feel, right? And what energizes me? What will energize me right now? And how can I also help to energize those around me? That is being a creative leader. And finally, routine and relationships. Our routines went out the window with COVID. We hopefully have already started to create new routines for ourselves, for our families that are supporting us. If you haven't done that, it's one of the best ways to really put yourself into a state of flow and energy every single day, right? When we're relaxed and engaged and we are in some kind of routine or productive activity, we are putting ourselves into a state of flow. The kinds of things that we choose to do in these routines are different for everybody. It just depends on our energetic makeup, our personality, our strengths, and our weaknesses, right? But certainly think about, how are you rising in the morning? Are you putting yourself first? And what are you doing to get in alignment, with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your actions, right? There's a lot of energy in our thoughts. And whatever it is that we're thinking is going to guide an emotion. And that emotion is going to guide an action. And that action is either going to be positive and energy building or negative and energy draining. It's our choice. Do we want to be in smooth waters or rocky waters, right? So you want to think about that. And most importantly, at least for me, with what's been happening with COVID, is this universal opportunity to really pay attention to what's most important in our life, in our personal life, and in our life as leaders in the workplace. And I think relationships are really at the foundation of that. So are we paying attention to those relationships? Our relationships are really calling for our attention right now. Our relationship with ourselves, okay? Again, as leaders, we have to start with us. The relationship with our family members. So many of us now, not only do we have to be leaders, but we have to be teachers, right? And we have to balance that. But just think about what our children are receiving from us, right? By spending that extra time with them, and what we are receiving from them. That is spiking our well-being and our purpose and our fulfillment in our life. So I think I've pretty much run out of time. One thing I want to say about these anchors is they're very simple. These are probably things that most of you are already doing or have been doing. And what I really want you to think about is, are you really utilizing them? Are you doing them consistently? And are you paying attention to how they are working for you, how they're benefiting you, and how they're also benefiting those who you're leading. Okay, so these are just a few tips that I wanted to bring you today, and I hope that they're helpful for you. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Monique. I think that was really, really helpful. I hope you all got as much out of that as I did. And I also, you should follow Monique on Instagram, because she does gives inspirational advice through her Instagram page. So I'll give you a little shout out there as well. And so we're going to now pivot to our FIU. And I want to go ahead and introduce Isabel Victoria Alfonsine. So Isabel Alfonsine Victoria, I want to go ahead and turn it over to you. And we've got a couple slides from you and some real insights as to how to support employees in critical.
First of all, I just want to say that I'm very happy to be here to see so many faces on screen. I know that I find Zoom fatigue has come about in this pandemic, but when I see all of these faces, I have to tell you that I'm really energized. Monique, thank you. That was a beautiful start. I found myself inspired by you. Thank you. Thank you so much for leading the path for this great conversation. I'm so happy to be here to collectively give a message of hope about dealing with uncertainty. When everything is uncertain, I find that everything that is important actually becomes clear. And as leaders, and we are all leaders, irrespective of our titles, because we lead in so many aspects of our lives, at home, at family, in our community, in our churches, wherever we may be, certainly here at our FIU, we need to take heart to what really, really matters. So what I thought in preparing for joining you today was what would be important for all of you that maybe don't have a chance to take pause, like Monique was saying, and reflect. And I want to start by telling everybody that this is Mental Health Awareness Week. So when I was invited to this, I thought that is really just absolute wonderful synchronicity, that we are looking to take care of ourselves at a time when, as a nation, we're all acknowledging the value of mental health. As a clinician, as an administrator, as a program manager, I find that this is the time when I'm not having to really work really hard at having people believe the importance of mental health. It's becoming clearly evident, right? So I brought to you just a few slides on reflection that we're doing at our FIU about how we are supporting our workforce during this difficult time. So I'll start with just a snapshot, because I think it's important for us to introspectively take a look at ourselves, but also as an institution, what happened? Well, you know, we were met with a Black Swan event that we had not forecasted. Although there are now lots of dialogue out across the globe that this was potentially anticipated, when we were busy in our day-to-day running a higher education institution, I don't think any of us had a pandemic in mind, but it happened. And we were very swift in our movement. We were able to move 80% of our workforce and 100% of our students to a remote work place and learning environment in one fell swoop. And we realized then how incredibly strong and powerful we have been at equipping our human resources to be able to do that. And I'm very privileged to have, as a part of my office, being associated with the division of HR. It's those human resources that really make all of this happen. That's what we need to take care of ourselves. So what did we do? Well, we have plans in place. We're always ready for things to happen. And of course, this triggered the emergency management response. That's more than just a group of people. That really amounted to lots and lots and lots of hands on deck. Obviously led by a president that has led us with intention, clarity, calm, courage, and compassion. Everything that Monique said, everything that a leader should, at the time of a crisis, lead with, so that we can feel confident that we are being stewarded responsibly. And then many of you who are even on this very Zoom call, all of you jumped in tirelessly to put time and energy and dedication into helping everyone get through this really challenging time. I have opportunities sometimes to have encounters with you. Some of you I know more than others. Some of you I don't. But I do know that there's a lot of heart at FIU. And we're trying to do the very thing that the president has a vision to do every day, which is turning the impossible into the inevitable. For those of you that may not know the most current statistics, the APA puts this out every couple of years. And this is what the workplace looks like. There's a lot going on. And you would think that while we have built systems that help us to move and work faster, and we should be in fact feeling lighter, we are actually feeling heavier. 40% of Americans are working more than 50 hours per week, and that was before the pandemic. I guarantee you that if we were to do a poll, we would find that we're actually working harder now. 74% of Americans don't get enough sleep. I think if there's one potential benefit to working from home is that people are actually saving time in the commute, possibly investing it in their well care. That's what I would hope. But still 58% of Americans say that work is a significant cause of stress. That's one of the reasons that the Office of Employee Assistance was even incorporated into FIU, and it has been in place for 20 years. I've only had the privilege of being associated with shy of 6 years, but it has been important for quite a number of years to think about the value of having an on-site support system for our faculty and staff, accessible to them at all times without any cost. Why? Because it matters, because our employees matter, and because even though well-being has been sort of like a business a proposition, we're learning that now it's a global priority and that it's not a nice to have. It's absolutely something you need. And we're looking at that very much now during this time. So what I want to really talk about is what Monique was saying. You know, there are some things that we can be prepared for as leaders, and there's some things we can't possibly anticipate. I've been associated with a virtual workforce for a long time. I spent about 10 years working in corporate. And at that time, I was virtual the entire time. And that was back in '99. So it's been a long time for me. And that was fine, but this is not the typical workforce, you know, living in a virtual environment. We're actually working from home and teaching during a global health crisis. And you know what? We didn't have any time to plan. We just had to go. It was wonderful to see that our FIU was ready. We had been thinking about that. The HR division is very forward thinking and always trying to be sure that we are thought leaders and that we have plans in place. And we had just done a survey trying to determine our readiness. And boy, did that information come in handy, because we actually had to execute without much time. I think that this is probably the greatest psychosocial experiment of all time. And by the way, guys, there's no control group. It's not like we have anything to compare to. We had to go, and we're going. And I have to say that for the most part, I'm hearing a lot of things, and most of it is working really well, but it's not without challenge. And that's where that comes in, the thought of, well, what could we be doing better? And are we paying attention? So this is what we're doing at our FIU. We have a lot of resources, but among the two largest dedicated at staff well-being is my office, the Office of Employee Assistance, and Panthers Active Wellness Services. If you're not familiar, we're both complementary of each other. One is much more of a counseling, more traditional employee assistance part, and the other is the health promotion and wellness. But together, as you see on the slide in front of you, we have shared missions, and we work together hand in hand to make sure that our Panthers stay healthy for life. And we do that in a number of different ways. But now during this pandemic, we've had to hone in very, very closely to find out what it is that we really need to be doing for everyone at FIU. As leaders, we have a responsibility to create programs and services that will be helpful, because many are struggling. We have 6 dimensions that we focus on. And it's not that any one of them is more important than another, but we are seeing a very, very big focus on the emotional component. Many of us are ready to teach and have been associated with virtual environments, but none of us have had to do it during a pandemic. None of us have had a dress rehearsal. We had to go live. And I have to say, I'm very proud. I'm seeing great things happen. As Monique said, this is a time of creativity and innovation, and boy, do we have smart people at FIU. However, that doesn't mean it doesn't take a toll. So what can we do to offset some of that? Well, this is what we're doing. We recognize that mental shifts, they take time, and some things require preparation. This pandemic didn't give anyone any time. to adjust. So we're doing everything we can to be helpful. And here's a number of ways we're doing it. In many different forums and across the spectrum of this enterprise, we're trying to reassure people and support them as their needs become known. Of course, there's a lot of education going on. We're seeing the numbers of professional development hours peak. We're seeing innovation. We're seeing creativity. We're making face shields. We have an on-site testing site at our fairgrounds. This is something we could never have imagined. We're listening to each other. We're tuning in. We're learning from each other. We have all of these opportunities like this council meeting today to learn from each other, from what's working, from what's not working, from connecting meaningfully, from communicating from the heart, for encouraging and lifting others and empowering, mostly at a time when most of us are feeling a little vulnerable. And I find that it's energizing. I heard Monique and I hear the others, and I'm so energized. I feel like I can walk away from today and just keep lifting, and focusing that there's not just one dimension, but 6 dimensions of wellness. And it's important that we have a balanced approach at how we take care of ourselves. So we get some guidance from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and what they're saying is pretty consistent with the literature that I'm reading. And every day there's more information coming out. But among the greatest tips are, please be thoughtful about job and role flexibility. We're all being stressed and stretched to the max. So there might be some thinking that we need to be reevaluating, reimagining how we do things, being open to change, putting safety above everything, because that is the number one goal, is to keep everybody safe and well and free from harm. So that means doing everything we can to limit exposure at work. For those that are still on site, we're being very thoughtful to make sure that they are being provided with all of the PPE equipment that they need, and with the flexibility to make sure that their needs are met. How? By staying up with the latest recommendations of the CDC, from the World Health Organization and OSHA. And that means that we have a team of people that meet every day to make sure that that is happening with the Emergency Operations Command Center. Every day. And yes, I do mean every day, including weekends. So putting employees first means recognizing that some of them might be facing some hazardous situations. There's a team looking at that. And we're also looking for ways that we can express our gratitude by finding different ways to take care of our employees. The HR department has been working relentlessly for weeks on creating HR tools that you're all going to hear more about, especially those of you that are all within the HR system, trying to find ways to offset some of the challenges that our workforce is experiencing. Most importantly, we're trying to provide as much wellness programming as is reasonable to support them, whether they are on site or whether they are off site, because engagement is key during a difficult time like this. Well, sometimes it's important to look beyond the walls of FIU and try to get information from other organizations. So I brought you just a few snippets from this enterprise, Josh Burson, who does corporate talent learning and HR technology. I found that the data that he was proposing is right in line with a course that we teach at the OEA called Mindful Leadership. These 4 highlighted words are the 4 pillars of a mindful leader. A leader that is focused, a leader that communicates with clarity, a leader that is creative, but most importantly, a leader who is compassionate. That is what mindfulness is. Mindfulness leadership is compassionate leadership. It's using emotional intelligence, because we are responsible to produce outcomes, doing so in a compassionate way. In fact, the theme for Mental Health Awareness Week this year is kindness. Kindness not just toward others, but kindness toward ourselves. Here we are leading, right? But we are people. So we're looking at this from 2 dimensions, from my personal human experience as Isabel, and as the person that I am in my leadership role with my responsibilities, and then my role as a parent, my role as a daughter, my role as a neighbor, my role in church, my role in my community. There are a lot of different things, and we have to be focused on taking care of us in a holistic way. I find that the human spirit has unlimited potential, but leaders that are empathic are the ones that actually get people through a crisis. Strong leaders In crisis, focus on the truth. That means clarity of information, effective communication of facts as we get them, as we know them, because we know that we are accountable and that people are looking to us to provide them with competent information. Everyone is watching. A leader during a crisis can be a failed leader or a successful leader, depending on how they're able to weather that storm rather. Strong leaders, I find, listen well. Only when we listen well can we really assess the issues and make the right decisions. So it's very important that we listen to our employees. So we need feedback. That's one of the reasons that there's so many conversations being had. So many different groups are meeting for different reasons, and information is being solicited from everyone so that we have the best ideas, so that everyone is heard, because we're all stronger if we're united. Leaders have so many objectives that it can be truly overwhelming. And I heard Monique say how hard it is actually to find balance, right? Well, I want you to know that our FIU and our OEA is actually very thoughtful about that. Just this week, we began a 2-part series called Cultivating Emotional Balance in an Unbalancing Time. It just started. If you haven't joined in, you can still join in because we have other sessions coming up tomorrow, on Friday, and next week, 4 more sessions. So there's an opportunity for you to learn in-house how you can actually derive a better sense of self-control and self-management so that you can feel more balanced. I want to talk about something that sometimes I think managers struggle with and leaders struggle with, which is expectations and how to deliver expectations at a time of crisis. It's okay to drive a high performance culture, so long as you're doing so expressing concern and empathy. Both of these things are not mutually exclusive. You can have a high performing team, and you can still convey compassion and probably derive a lot more than just by leading without cognition of how this is affecting your resource. By all means, this is going to be a sensitive one, but I really want to put this out here because I feel I have a responsibility. Many of us, I know, are overachieving folks, or we wouldn't be here, right? That's why we're a part of this FIU, because we're so proud, because we have so much to do. But please, please be wise and take care of yourselves. Monique was telling us we do need to do better with self-management. So we do need to practice better time and energy management. It starts with how you manage your day. Try to make sure that you're working reasonable hours, that you're starting at a reasonable time and trying to finish at a reasonable time. And also lead by example, so that when you are sending meeting invitations or holding gatherings, that you are being thoughtful that everyone needs rest, starting with you. At some point you will run out. And as I'm sure you're realizing, 10 weeks into this is not a sprint. This is a long race, and we're going to get winded and tired. So if we do not take care of ourselves, we're going to pay for it. This pandemic has made everything an emergency, but we need to start taking control where we can. So prioritize and respond to issues as they come. But please be good and be scrutinous at what's truly an emergency and what's important, so that some things can actually wait. You don't have to get to everything at the same time just because you're working from home. You have to practice and promote self-care. The best way for a leader to suggest to someone else that they get care is if they do so by example. So take moments to breathe, to stand up, to move, to take a break for lunch. Yes, you should take a break for lunch. To check in with your colleagues. We do this all the time. Hey, how's it going? Don't talk about work, just connect. Just that opportunity to listen to someone and to lift and encourage them will also give you equal opportunity to do the same for you. Be authentic and be vulnerable. I do believe that in leadership, sometimes there's a perception that we have to be strong all the time. You may have heard already of Dr. Brene Brown out of the UT system, and her talks on the TED Talk channel are fabulous. She is one that is a proponent, and her research has all been on vulnerability. This is an opportune time to be authentic and vulnerable with your team. It is not as though we know everything and we have every answer. So this is an important time for you to be able to normalize some of the ambiguity of things, and remember that we can work with our teams to find solutions together. We don't have to know everything. That's why we work in teams. Recognize efforts as much as outcomes. quality is better than quantity. It's important that you recognize that people are doing everything that they can. And so surviving is key. We can't push beyond what people can actually produce. Remember to promote the employee assistance program if you have one. If you're not with FIU and you're an external person, if you have an internal program, or if you know of any employer-sponsored wellness program, please make sure that you let people know that they're available and use them yourself. I think it helps us to destigmatize resources when we lead by example. If possible, celebrate all victories and milestones. There's a lot going on and there's a lot of great things. We can't just focus on the negative. We have to find a way to celebrate the good things that we're learning during this challenging time. If there's any opportunity for you to highlight achievements in your social media feeds, this is another great way to stay connected with people, is to let everybody know what we're doing to get through this challenge. And most importantly, be a servant leader. Inspire and spread hope and compassion. It will go a lot further than anything that you could ever do for your employees. I have, in the course of preparing this for you, curated a number of resources that I'm going to make available through our hosts, so this information can make it out to you. These are wonderful articles that are about the time that we're living and all the different ways that we can actually help ourselves and help others. There's also presentations embedded in these links that are through via different leadership talks that I've attended in the recent month from all the institutions that are freely giving their work away. So please make sure that if you want to get this information, that you get it from the host. And then if you have any questions for me, I'm here. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for helping us during this challenging time. We are in this together. It's important to remember, like Monique said, that this isn't just happening to one of us, it's happening to all of us. And even though we are socially distanced, we are more connected than ever. Thank you for having me.
Great job. Thank you, Isabel. That was, both of you, that was phenomenal. I found it, I think we all found it very insightful. I'm reading the group chat here, and there's more stuff being provided on the group chat by our team. So I think it was a great way to, I mean, I think it accomplished all the things we'd hoped to, which is to highlight what we're doing at FIU, as well as a President's Council member. I want to recognize Elle Pegnier Hudson, who's our VP of HR at FIU. So I want to welcome you to joining the call, and obviously your team's doing a phenomenal job. There you are. Happy, it's great to see you. And certainly want to welcome our other President's Council members. So Elle Pegnier, do you have anything you want to add to is there any other insights you want to add to the group, or make any comments?
Wow, thank you so much for the opportunity. This is absolutely phenomenal. I'm always trying to follow Isabel when I can, and I'm just so happy to have had the opportunity to hear her, as well as Monique. I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, and I would ask if you would just take 2 moments to talk to us about the patience that we have to have, even with each other, right? Because it's been nonstop, as you all know, both within and outside the university, and that self-care is so important. And sometimes somebody might say something to you in a tone or respond to you in a manner that is, it's not even characteristic of them, but we would be patient and understand that people are walking through emotionally, physically, in every way. And I want our team to know, both here at the university and those that are even not within the university, to know that everyone wakes up in the morning with one heart and one mind to do a right thing. So no one's, intending to be offensive. No one's intending to be harmful, even with their words, right? So the things that you've shared are certainly tools that we can use, but also want to speak to how we can be patient with each other as we're walking through this time.
Yeah.
Great. I guess, is that a question for both Monique and
Yes.
Isabel? Maybe Monique, you can go first.
Bottom line, I think we all have to allow for humane moments and just recognize that we are humans on a very complex, complicated world and earth. And the more we are able to really look for for that humanness in each other every single day. And again, tap into that compassion and have compassion for ourselves. That's the only way to really connect with individuals, and to, in those moments of reactivity, we are all going to have them. Believe pie in the sky is we're never going to be reactive. We're always going to be creative, but that's not the reality, you know. And I've experienced the reason I came into leadership. That wasn't my career. My career was marketing and public relations. I changed my career halfway while I was at FIU, 17 years, because I experienced toxic, difficult leadership and explosive, beautiful leadership. And experiencing the dichotomy of both, I was able to see the humaneness in both and just recognize that we're human. Humans are going to go through things. And when someone has that reactivity, understand that you don't walk in their shoes. They are going through something that we are not going through. And so pausing, again, I go back to the simplicity of the anchors. Pause before we react, understand, and give them an opportunity to talk about what may be happening. And again, we're human. Let's focus on the humaneness. Let's be compassionate. It's going to help all of us get through this, and it's going to help all of us learn and evolve.
Very good. Thank you so much. Isabel?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, EK, for joining this call. This is a great opportunity for me to shout out what an exemplary leader you are to our organization, to our team, to myself. It doesn't matter how busy you are. And this is true. I'm speaking from the heart to everyone that is hearing. It doesn't matter how much she's got going on. It doesn't matter how long her day is. She always finds an opportunity to check in. And I'm living proof of that. In the darkest days that I've had at this institution, first when my parents suffered a horrific fire to their home, and they survived, but everything was lost. The first person that reached out to me was her. And during my father's passing last year, she was the first person that I told that was not a family member. And during challenges that we're facing during COVID, we've had losses in our family. It's her that I've gone to. So she's saying, what do we do? I would say, be like EK. Stop, find a second, check in, be human, care, listen, lift, encourage, and yes, pray for each other. Sometimes I know we have struggles with bringing spirituality into the workplace, but I do think that there's an appropriate time when we're seeing so much human suffering to be human, to remember that this is a part of our experience and that we're all scared and that we all feel pain, and that the most beautiful thing that we have is the opportunity to connect meaningfully with each other, to take that moment. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. Sometimes it's seconds. You just look into each other's eyes and you can feel the energy. You can understand that there's pain, that that person is struggling. Just be there. If you don't have the right words, you don't have to speak. Presence, eye connection. Yes, we're not able to be physically connected as much as we've been able to, but there's still ways of doing so. I feel very connected. Right before this beautiful gathering, I had the great opportunity to lead Mindfulness and Togetherness, which is a new meditation series that I started. And for that 1 hour, we were extremely connected, 20 people in all different households, but we were united in spirit. So during a difficult time, I think for all of us, leaders or not, by title or not, we are all human beings. We are all part of this same race. We all have that in common. So let's be human before and beyond anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pete, I promise you, I didn't pay her to say that. I really appreciate it.
No, that was great. This is unrehearsed. This is unrehearsed. So, but we got some other questions that came in. So now I was going to have to, rely on my own questions, but, and I have a lot, but, so one great question was, how are people handling the balance with kids at home, or maybe some advice on how to do that? And dealing with all the other distractions that come from working from home. And then maybe kind of beyond that, there's a question about how do you manage kind of the boundaries, right? And what I hear from my employees is, I'm working 20 or 30% more than I was before because we do consulting, and just to be able to manage interacting with people, you have to have almost 20 or 30% more kind of interactions, right? Because you can't just walk down the hallway. So you have to schedule a meeting, have a meeting. So there's, there's that, which then rides into kind of work hours. So I guess the two questions are kind of how do you manage the distractions, or advice on how to do that, and then how do you manage the boundaries around, those early morning Zoom meetings or late afternoon, or, when we go from Zoom meetings to happy hour Zoom meetings to family Zoom meetings, it's like there's, so any advice there?
You want to take it?
Sure. Listen, there's no easy answer to any of this. It's what you choose and what you choose to create. And this is the hard part, because we do have to be a little bit tough with ourselves and with others, while being compassionate, while providing that hope and being loving as a parent and as a leader. We do need to create boundaries. And we're not really great at doing that sometimes. So this is where we have to look at how our life was before and throw it out the window and say, what are the new routines that I need to create for myself and for my family to help us find that balance moment to moment? It's not going to be a perfect system. What you do, the boundaries you create today, you may have to change them tomorrow because they're not working. But this is what helps you to become an agile leader, an agile parent, is understanding that change is in the moment, right? It's not to sticking to your guns. It's about being flexible and forgiving yourself for not being perfect. Bottom line, your kids do need you right now. So as employers, we have to allow our parents to do a good job of parenting and being teachers from one day to the next. And yes, we need to embrace it, and we need to give ourselves the space and the time to do it, because if we don't do it, we're going to regret it. Number one, we're going to have that mommy guilt, that daddy guilt. We don't want that. Okay. And number two, we're going to miss out on what's going to be created by spending that time with our kids. Okay. Believe me, what's coming out of it is beautiful. So create the time for it and create those boundaries around it that are going to support you. That means not doing 20 Zoom calls a day. Maybe do one happy hour a week like you used to do. Okay. Make time for yourself. For me, this is always a priority. If you have to wake up an hour earlier and close your door an hour sooner at night and breathe, pray, stretch, do something good for yourself, you're going to feel better, and you're going to feel like, you know what, today was a good day. I wasn't perfect, but I was able to do a lot. I was able to help myself. I was able to help my kids. I was able to do good work, make a difference in my life as a leader and in the life of those who I lead. Lastly, don't try to overfill your days. My stepfather was an incredible leader. He led a worldwide company. I learned so much from him. I went into business because of him. I got my MBA because of him. And I'm still not good at this. I work at this every single day, but he tells me, I don't do more than 3 things a day. Strive for that. What are the 3 priorities, the 3 big fish you want to fry today? Don't try and do it all. Work towards that, create boundaries, be there for your kids, and be flexible, be flexible and forgiving.
Great advice. The only thing I'll add for those of you that may not know is check out our HR newsletter. It comes out every other Monday, and on it we have an offering for a new parent club meeting. They are being offered by the Center for Children and Families. So it's a wonderful opportunity for you to just take an hour of your time, and there are psychologists from that team that are actually leading these support groups for parents. Also on the OEA website, we're going to be posting a presentation by one of the psychologists from the K School. Dr. Dan Bagner is going to be offering us a Parenting During a Pandemic webinar, and we're going to be putting it up next week. So keep looking, because we have internal resources. Remember, we are an institution where there is a wealth of information. What we're also probably learning is how much of it there is, and we just do not know how to tap into it. So if you don't know where to turn, just call the OEA or send us an email and we'll let you know where you can get what you need. Because chances are somebody's struggling around here and somebody's figured it out. Parenting and working at the same time is a very difficult thing, and Monique could not be more right. Be patient with yourself, be kind. There's also great things. I'll tell you some things that I learned this week. We had 2 colleagues that checked in with me and said, if I hadn't been home, I would not have seen my daughter take her first steps. Mm-hmm. And I had a father call me and say, my daughter has had a stuttering problem for a long time, and ever since I've been working with her at home and reading with her, her stuttering has gotten better. And that just touched me. So there are good things. We are able to do good things during difficult times.
Great. I'll just ask you, we have maybe another minute or two. Any parting thoughts in terms of like that one thing that you want people to leave with in terms of, what you presented today? Isabel, I'll let you go first, then we'll let Monique go.
I'll say that there's a lot of stress and challenge in the world, but don't lose sight of how we're overcoming it. It's like Dr. Rogers said, in his Rogers Neighborhood show, it's look at all the people that are helping, right? There's a lot of bad things going on, but there's a lot of overcoming. So I hope that you take heart to all the beautiful things that are becoming because of, sadly, all the things that are not. There is a silver lining. We can get through this. We will learn through this. I think it's a period of transformation, but as Monique said, it's what we choose to put attention to, what we choose to focus on. That will be, I think, our defining exit from all of this is how has this changed us?
Great. Thanks, Isabel. Monique?
Be kind and loving to yourself and allow for healing. One thing I recognize with over 100 people on this call is that we each have different experiences going through this time. Some of us have lost family members. We have lost other people who are dear to us. And we've experienced our own illness perhaps during this time. This is a time of global healing. That's the way I'm choosing to look at it. It's a global pause. And let's take advantage of it. If we're not taking advantage of it, we're hurting ourselves. We're not helping ourselves. We're here to evolve as a species, as a human race. And we really are all in this together. And I'm just really grateful to look at my screen and see all of these little boxes, and after this is over, we know it's never going to be the same. I think we're just going to be better. We really are. But after this is over, don't stop the boxes, don't stop the Zooms. I agree with you, Isabel, 100%, that I feel more connected than ever to so many in my life, and get ready for the virtual world. Be prepared for it, enjoy it, embrace it. It's going to change the way we operate, and it's also going to allow us to be the kind of leaders that will put ourselves first, put our families first, and just take care of ourselves in ways that we weren't able to before.
Great. Okay, that's great advice, and that kind of leads us to our next my last slide in closing. We want to remind you that our next PC Roundtable is going to be with with Wendy Clergus, one of our President's Council members, and Dean Michael Chang, as well as Bill Talbert and Lee Schrager from South Beach Wine and Food Festival. So I think that's going to be a great one. We're going to talk about kind of how the hospitality industry and the convention visitors has been impacted by COVID-19 and what they're going to do to recover. So I welcome you all to join us on June 2nd. I want to remind everyone we did record this. We will send out the recording and we'll send out the slides because I know a number of folks asked about that. I want to thank all my President's Council members for joining, as well as everybody else from our FIU community. And we look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you again. Thank you again, Monique and Isabel. Thank you again.
Here to help. Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone.